Welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So today I have another Visconti to show you, and this Visconti fountain pen was sent to me by Visconti. Thank you, Maurizio, for sending this to me for review. And this is a new addition in 2018 to not only the Visconti range, but also to the Homo Sapiens range. Now, this is the Visconti Homo Sapiens Evolution. So I have 10 Visconti Homo Sapiens here, from the London Fog, the Florentine Hills, the Jade, the Chianti, the Caput Mundi, the Bronze Age Marzi, the Dark Age, the Elegance, and the Corsani 90. So as you can see, I do like the Homo Sapien range of pens. Now, as you can understand from the name Evolution, it's taking the original design and trying to improve on it. And I'll show you compared to another Visconti Homo Sapiens. This is, again, both pens are made of lava edition. So this is the Bronze Age here, and then this is the Evolution. So there's a number of differences that initially you can see here. One is the removal of the Homo Sapiens dual band on the cap. You'll also notice this wavy-like material. So the body itself is lava. The cap, I think, is more of a resin material. It may be lava with resin and polished, possibly, but it also has this etching that goes on with these swirls, which actually makes it look rather nice. Now, you have that not only on the cap, but you also have it on the power filling knob as well. So that's just a few differences that you see here on the new Homo Sapiens Evolution. I'll show you a few more in a moment, so let me just move this out of the way. And I think let's start here. We have the standard Visconti My Pen finial, where you can actually swap it out for your initials or a gemstone or birthstone. We have the Visconti Bridge Clip. Now, this is etched, and it's not enamel, so you can see that there. And then obviously you have those swirls again, and I mentioned. Now, those are really, really nice. I really do like that appearance. Now, one thing you will not be able to see on camera is that these do have a very minute texture to them. Like, if you run your finger over them, you can actually feel the etching or the engraving that's gone on there, which actually makes it quite nice. So, I think Visconti have done a really good job with the way that they have engraved those swirl patterns into the material. Now, there is another change here as well. Instead of the regular Homo Sapiens, and I'll show you here with one of the original pens, it just says HS short for Homo Sapiens. So that's another difference to the pen. I don't know, I initially, when I originally got my first Homo Sapiens, wasn't a fan of having Homo Sapiens written all the way round the band there. I guess it's something I've got used to. So this is now, again, another change to the model. So the pen tapers down to the filling knob, and you can see there that it is also engraved on the filling knob. There's nothing on the end of it there. So that's like really a few of the changes that have gone on with this pen. Now, another, what is a big change, actually two, I should say. One is that it's a screw cap. It's not got the patented Visconti hook safe lock system that we're used to on Visconti fountain pens. The next thing is that they have also etched or engraved the section as well of the same material of the cap. And then the biggest change of all is that it comes with a different nib. Now, this is the new Visconti skeleton nib. Now, I was a little skeptical when this was announced. It's a very radical design change to what we're used to on fountain pen nibs. I know a lot of manufacturers are starting to do this now. So this is a steel nib. It's not a palladium nib, and it's not a gold nib. So, but you can see here the cutouts that you have. There's effectively 3 cutouts on that side of the nib, 3 cutouts on this side. The underside, it looks very similar to a CR18 or Chromium 18 nib from Visconti. And then you have this Visconti V etched into the nib there. And I actually really do like the way that is done, because it captures the ink and actually just shows it there. Now, this nib definitely looks radically futuristic, I would say. So what do I like and what do I not like about this pen? So I love that it's kept pretty much down to the true heritage of the Homo sapiens, with the basaltic lava made from Mount Etna, ground down into dust, mixed with resin to make this very hard, very hygroscopic material. One of the issues with the original Homo sapiens was the section was made out of the same material. And because it's hygroscopic, it would not only absorb moisture from your fingers or hands, not only in the section but the body as well, and it would turn more whitish over time. But on the section, when you ink the pen up, it would almost suck in the ink, and you could, in some cases, if you don't practice good pen hygiene, you could actually have it stain your section over time. So I'm really glad that Visconti have changed that on this pen, and that section now is completely different. So I think this will not now absorb the ink like it did on the previous Lava Edition pens. So I think that's a real good plus. And I do like these engravings on the pen. So for me, that's something I do like about this. I guess I would prefer that it had the hook safe lock rather than a screw cap. I do like the hook safe lock for being able to quickly cap and uncap the pen. There's nothing wrong with screw caps, but I do find that the hook safe lock mechanism is a lot more superior in terms of being able to cap and uncap a pen. Now, the other thing which I know is going to be really a radical change is the nib here. Now, initially I was very skeptical of this, and I have to say, since I've now written with it, I really do find this quite an interesting nib. Now, it is a steel nib. It's not a palladium nib, and it's not a gold nib. So let's do a size and weight check. So the pen is around 145 millimeters in length, and the cap is 60 millimeters in length. Now, the length of the body from the tip of the tines, we're looking around about 132 millimeters. Now let's do a weight check. The full weight of the pen, we're looking at just over 58 grams in weight. The cap is just under 26.5 grams. And the body inked, we're looking at just over 36 grams. So I think let's ink this pen up and I'll do a writing sample. This is the Visconti Homo, I'm going to just call it HS because that's what's written on the band, center band here. So Homo Sapiens, and it's the Evolution. Now, I don't know if you can see this here, but this ink, I'll show you in a bit, but this ink is very, very wet. So this is actually putting down a very wet line. And this is a 1.3 millimeter stub, and it is a steel nib. So it's not palladium, it's not gold, it's just a regular steel nib, but the Visconti skeleton nib. So in terms of regular line variation, we have here, this is with no pressure whatsoever. So if I try to zoom in a little bit more here, you'll see. Now if I start to apply more pressure, you can actually get double the line variation. And it doesn't feel like I'm going to spring this nib, because it is a steel nib, and steel pretty much is going to be quite tough from a nib perspective. Now, in terms of figure of eights, see there how wet this is. Now, I think, for me, this is a really nice writing nib. I'm pleasantly surprised by it. I didn't think I would like it as much as I do. That said, more lately, I've actually been going for steel nibs on pens. Like, I've got a number of custom pens, and they all have steel nibs on them, Jovo nibs, and they actually, with a broad nib, they actually write really well and very pleasantly. So I am actually quite surprised at this, to the point that I didn't think this would write as well as it does. It is a steel nib, so like, what are you going to get from a steel nib? Like, you get pretty much a decent writing nib if the nib has been tuned properly, and I think this nib has been tuned properly. So in terms of wetness, now this I think is going to be quite wet, so let's see. So we'll do some cross strokes here, and then we'll see how this fares. Okay, so this is Konpeki, and it's still wet here actually. So this is, and obviously this is a 1.3 millimeter stub nib. We'll do the same for a downstroke. Yeah, it pretty much goes off the page. So this is a very, very wet writing nib. Now Konpeki as an ink is actually quite wet, but so I want to show you something here. Now I use 1.3 millimeter stubs a lot, and some of them are gushers. I wouldn't say any of them are this wet, and I've used Konpeki. But look at this. If I zoom in here, you can see where I actually not only didn't apply pressure here, but then applied pressure. We've actually got feathering going on. And this is on rhodia paper. So this nib, as you can see, is super wet. And I love super wet nibs. So this has kind of surprised me. I've not had a steel nib write that wet before. So I'll take my hat off to Visconti. I think they might be onto something here. If all of the skeleton nibs write like this one, like obviously you're not going to get as much of a line variation on an extra fine, medium, or broad, and they probably won't be as wet either. But this is a very wet writing nib, and I wonder if I can actually zoom in and show you this writing a little bit. So if I see, it's not really opening those tines up much, but it's enough. Like, this is super wet. So I think this is actually a really nice pen, and I think I'm actually going to have some fun with this. I'm a little bit taken back by this, because I thought, probably like everybody else, a steel nib. So obviously you can see here the two nibs, or two pens side by side here. Now the difference between these two pens are actually quite substantial in terms of price. So the Evolution is about $100 or €100 more, but you have a steel nib on it. Now, but what you do have is you have a skeleton steel nib, and I think from this writing experience here, I think it shows that this actually is a really, really good writer. Plus you get all of this engraving as well on the pen. So, I don't know, you'll have to make up your mind whether or not it's worth $100 or €100 more, but with a steel nib instead of a palladium nib. For me, I think without trying it, I would have said no. I think I would have said that I would prefer the palladium nib. I think after trying it though, I think this steel nib actually does perform very well. And I like fire hose nibs, and this doesn't disappoint me at all. The nib writes very smooth. It doesn't have any tipping on it. And I have other 1.3mm stubs or 1.5mm stubs without tipping, and they don't write anywhere near as good as this. It actually does outperform other nibs. So overall, I really do like this pen. Is it worth the money? That has to be your decision. For me, now that I've been able to write with the pen and try the pen, I think it is worth it. Would I spend that £100, €100, $100 more for steel nib normally? Probably not. However, there are pens that I have paid more for with steel nibs. So at the end of the day, this really has to be your decision. Personally, I think it's enough of a change to warrant the extra money in terms of the cap, the engraving, the new look. Maybe 100 is a little bit more. Like me, if it was 50, maybe that would be better. But I think it is probably worth it. I do like the steel nib. I really do love how that writes. If I had made this pen myself, I would have put a 23 karat palladium nib on it instead of the steel nib. That would be my personal preference. However, I really do like this steel nib. So I'm actually quite intrigued to see what other nibs and writing experiences Visconti can come up with, because this for me was a really good writing experience. I think it's enough of a change to keep the Homo Sapiens range going. I think the basaltic lava is a really lovely material used in a pen. It's never been used before other than by Visconti. So I think that in itself makes this pen very unique. So thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.